We're going to turn to our Catechism again. (172), and that's on page 159. Okay. Why is the church called holy? It is made up of holy people, saints, believers who have been cleansed by the blood of Christ and who serve God with holy living. Somebody want to read Ephesians 5:25 through 27?
Christ loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water and with the word, so that he might be present. He might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle, without anything such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish.
Okay, and 1 Peter 2:5.
You yourselves like living stones being built up as a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood to offer spiritual sacrifice acceptable to God through Jesus Christ.
So the reason why we confess that we believe in one holy Christian and apostolic church in the creed is because holy is another word for sanctified or to set aside, or if any of you know your Latin, holy, the word holy is sanctus, which has its root in saints. So we are made saints by faith through grace through Jesus Christ our Lord, not for anything that we can do or say or anything that we should say or could possibly say, but we are made holy only by the blood of Christ in our lives and by faith of the washing of water and with the word. Now, this is where we get into one of the big problems in Christendom throughout the ages, and that is the whole understanding of the fact that we are sinners and at the same time saints. That why is it that the church many times doesn't always act like saintly people? I mean, anybody that's gone to church for more than 2 days realizes the fact that people in the church hurt one another, hurt themselves. I mean, what is it that, it's a really good bumper sticker, and it says basically to the extent, Christians are not perfect, they're just forgiven. And it is through that forgiveness that we are made saints. We struggle against the world, the devil, and our flesh. We struggle day in and day out in many and various different ways, but continuously made holy by the work of God. Now, this contradiction or paradox, not contradiction, is something that the church has struggled with since its beginnings, even back in the early church days. What constitutes this holy Christian and apostolic church? On the same light, why is it that we as Christians continually fall and falter? So it is that tension that we as Christians need to really be aware of in our lives, that we are both sinners and saints at the same time. And when you look at the old Adam, that which we do or that which we don't do, that is our sinner side. When you look at the holiness of us, the saints, that's the work of God. That's the work of Jesus Christ. That's the work of God the Father and God the Holy Spirit. And you yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house, to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. So please be aware of that we are at one point sinners, but we are also at the same point saints. Okay, 173. Why is the church called Christian? It belongs to Christ and is built on him alone, not the Pope, not a denomination, not a pastor, not money, not a country. Did I pretty much get everything in there that I could possibly think of? It is built on Christ and Christ alone. 1 Corinthians 3:11, somebody want to read that, please?
No one can lay a foundation other than that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ.
One of the things that I would like to share with you, being in the ministry, if you've been in the ministry for over 25, 30 years, you could write a book on all the stupid things that you've said, or the stupidest things that other people have said to you. I think of one guy. The Lord's Supper fell like on the first or third Sunday of the month, and then we had a holiday, so we had communion the next day. And he said to me, he didn't mean any harm, and I'll never forget it though. He said, "Pastor, what do you want to communion us to death?" and you know, theologically, no, we want to have the means of grace as much as we can. That doesn't mean that I'm one of these pastors that go out there and say we have to have communion every Sunday. There are some pastors that do that. That's not, twice a month is fine by me. It's good. But it was funny though that the very thing, the means of grace is that it brings life to us. It brings forgiveness. And here he says, what do you want to communion us to death? Now the other thing, and I bring this into, and because our church is very, very much attuned to this. If you look at the average givings of churches our size, okay, we do very well. We have some very good givers in our congregation. We have some very solid workers. There's always something going on here. What is it with like Mighty Dog? What was that commercial? What was that commercial? Pound for pound. We do more with our size than what most people do with the larger congregation. But one of the things that one district president said to me, that you could measure the health of a congregation by how much money per giving capita you have in the church. Again, a stupid thing to say for a district president. Didn't this guy ever read The Widow's Mite? I understand the fact that you give to the church. What is it? You show me what you give your time and your talents to, and I will show you where your heart is, right? That's the paraphrase.
I've also heard, check somebody's checkbook and you'll see where their heart is.
Well, yeah. Or what bills they have or whatever. Just off the cuff on that, okay? I used to hang out with three pastors when I was in the Eastern District in Pennsylvania, and one of the pastors and his wife really loved their house. they took care of their house. That's where their treasures were. They you know, they wanted all the gooby doodads, you know, that was what they want, you know. The other family, it was all about the kids. You know, let's get the kids through college, let's get this, we'll get that, let's get them the best college or whatever, and they did that. Now, my point is that one can say where your checkbook is, so, but what I couldn't understand was how these two pastors could not understand the fact that one loved their home, and they didn't have kids, by the way. Their kids were all grown, so they didn't have the finances to worry about taking care of kids. The other family couldn't understand why why do you give you so much to your kids for, you know? And I'm saying to myself, hey guys, you're missing the whole point here. You know, the whole point is that's your priorities. Now, with the church, like I said, if you look at per capita, we do pretty well as a congregation. Okay, does that mean that we're healthy? I guess, in a sense, stewardship-wise, yes, we are. You know, we do pretty well financially as a congregation. You know. But do we have gaps in the church? Yes. Yeah, we have gaps in the church. So the district president, I believe, was absolutely wrong when he says, and it was a stupid thing to say, that you can measure the health of a congregation by how much money they bring in. I'm sorry. And by the way, you know, one of the reasons why I was in trouble all the time, I corrected him. You don't do that, you see, because, you know, the district president, again, that you know, it's like, not for anything, no, there are churches that don't do well financially, that are struggling financially. Could it be how much, what is it? It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you spend. That's another good one, you know. I think we need to be careful with understanding the fact that stewardship is a sign of sanctification. That if we believe that we're made holy in the sight of God, that we will respond to that as best as we can. But no, I don't believe that the health of a congregation necessarily goes hand in hand with the amount of money. You could have one family in a congregation that's giving buku bucks, right? And when that family goes, or when that family leaves, or when that family dies off, where's the, quote, health of the congregation? And I'll tell you a story about that in my former congregation. You know the guy that owned Mount Airy Lodge? You ever heard Mount Airy Lodge? It was a big resort in Mount Pocono. Beautiful Mount Airy Lodge. They had commercials and everything. Anyway, some say the mob killed him, some say he killed himself. I don't know if it really matters, and I don't even know if anybody's going to really ever know. However, they did eventually make it into a casino. But this much I can tell you, when he passed away, the church, my former congregation, could not make ends meet. Now, this was before I even got there. I didn't know that. But this guy, he would have, once a year at the church, shrimp. You know, shrimp boats? And he would have shrimp, all the shrimp you could eat. By the way, we're not talking about the little tiny shrimp, we're talking about the big jumbo shrimp. You know, and I mean, he carried that congregation. So in some sense, if you looked at the bulletin and how much money was coming into the church, well, they're doing really well. Well, maybe they weren't doing really well. What we need to, and what am I driving at here? And the long and short of it is, where is Christ? Please, that is the center of how we measure the Christian church. We measure not money, not looks. You know, we have. I'm telling you, we have one of the prettiest churches here in the world. The way I understand it, as I look around, we have a pretty church. But even so, if we have no Christ, what do we got? We got nothing, folks. We ain't got nothing. So we need to be aware of the fact that we need to, Hebrews 12:2, let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the shame and suffered for us as his children, and now has sanctified us, and now we are holy. We are saints. Which gets me to the last part of this whole thing. We were talking about the good church of Rome last week, I believe, about saints praying to the saints. I'm offended by that because, more than anything I'm offended by it, is because we're saints. I could say St. Norman, St. Max, St. Laverne, St. Mary, St. Judy. I'm not going to say St. Red, because I'm not going to go there, but I could. All right, and the point is this, that we are, God bless you, that we are saints, and we don't have to have relics or any of that, all that other stuff. We are made saints by the work of Christ, and as such, I don't know if our focus should be, I definitely know we shouldn't be focusing on special kind, you know, St. Anthony, my father's name was Anthony, the patron saint of, what was he named after? St. Anthony was the patron saint of lost causes or something like that. We need to focus in on who is made saintly by the work of the Holy Spirit in our lives. So that covers that much. Okay, page 160, and we're on heading 174. Where is the Holy Christian Church to be found? The Holy Christian Church is to be found where the gospel is truly taught and the sacraments are correctly administered. Augsburg Confession 7:1. The gospel and the sacraments are called the marks of the church. Now, many of you probably are not aware of this, but we are a confessional church. We have what is known as the Book of Concord. It's made up of the small catechism, the large catechism, the three ecumenical creeds, the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, and the Athanasian Creed. It is made up of the unaltered Augsburg Confession. It is made up of the Formula of Concord. It is made up of the power and the primacy of the Pope. What's the other ones that are in there? Anyway, it's our confession of faith. When you, and by the way, this is something that I don't think folks can fully appreciate. When a pastor is ordained, he makes certain promises to the congregation, and the congregation makes certain promises to him. And one of the things that happens a lot of times is, Pastor, why can't you let us do this or do that? Or why don't you let us do this or do that? And the question then becomes, the question says, where does it say in the scriptures? Well, we believe that the Book of Concord is the correct exposition of the scriptures. So, for example, when Luther says that we are sinners, let's say in the Augsburg Confession, we know that from Genesis, that from the fall of Adam and Eve, we believe that, and that confession is what defines what we can do as a church. It's not just scriptures in the sense that the confessions look at the scriptures and the scriptures looks at the confessions and they intertwine with one another, and that at that point then we as Christians keep Christ at the center of the life of the church. I can't make things up. I can't make things up. You can't make things up. All right? There's a doctrine called adiaphora. You know what that is? How many of you have heard the doctrine of adiaphora? Okay. Judy, what's the doctrine of adiaphora? You remember?
I wrote it down when I was told that.
Okay, adiaphora is the Latin term for things indifferent. Let's say you guys wanted to change the cushion from red to blue. This is a pretty easy, by the way, it's not always this easy, but let's say you want to change the red to blue. Does it say anywhere in the scriptures that thou shalt not use blue cushions, or thou shalt use red cushions? Okay? It doesn't say in the scriptures, nor does the Book of Concord, as it looks at the scriptures, points to the fact that it is adiaphora. Now, adiaphora is the term, again, things indifferent. There are things in scriptures that are just not said. So we have a theology called the doctrine of adiaphora. And so when the congregation says, Pastor, we want to move this banner from here to here.
That's adiaphora.
It's adiaphora. I have nothing to say about it.
But if you want to change the wine into grape juice, that makes a difference.
And see that now you're getting into what is this profound doctrine of adiaphora? Because we hear in scriptures that Jesus says the fruit of the vine, which is wine. Okay? Yeah, but you have alcoholics out there that if they have one drink, they take the temptation of having 2 drinks. Okay? Now, what do we do with that? That is a theological question. Does that fall into adiaphora, or does that fall into the doctrine of the real presence? Does it take? You see what I'm saying? So that's a theological thing, and that's why we as Christians need to say, well, if it's not in the scriptures, then we don't say one way or the other. Well, you might see it in scriptures if you look close enough. That's number one. The Greek says the fruit of the vine. We know that wine back in the days of the early church, they all drank wine. Why did they drink wine? Because everything would go bad. There was no refrigeration. If you had grape juice and you had no refrigeration, it would turn to wine. So these things we need to always keep Christ at the center. That's why we're going over the small catechism. That's why we study scriptures. That's why and by the way, there's not always easy answers. Okay? All right. So with that in mind, let's bow our heads and say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, folks.